everyone, and welcome to Back Alley Chat. You are tuning into the 17th episode. For some reason, 17 sounds like such a bigger number than 16. I'm not sure why, but I'm very grateful that you're all still here with me and that you watch every week and that you guys engage and tell me your thoughts and ideas down below. And on Instagram and stuff like that. I just really, that's my favorite part is the day that this uploads and then I get to talk to you guys about whatever we chatted about. Today will be another solo episode. I won't have another one of these for some time, so I figured I would enjoy it while it's here. I'm actually filming 3 episodes this week. So today is Monday. This will come out Wednesday, so 2 days from now. I'm filming tomorrow evening and then Saturday with someone that's actually flying into town to podcast. So I got some really cool stuff coming up ahead, but I'm excited to enjoy this time together. Today in this solo dolo episode, we'll be diving deep into some important news and topics that I feel deserve a little bit of attention. We're going to be talking about an alarming resurgence of bath salts, especially in the state of Florida, and how to stay safe amidst these different drug trends that are happening. We're going to talk about harm reduction, sex workers. I can't help it. We have to talk about the Long Island serial killer because I'm like obsessed and it just is what it is. So if you guys don't know, you'll know in a moment. Yeah, and maybe a little bit more about the government. But really, truly, I have to always thank Quick Intel, who was our sponsor. And the reason why Quick Intel is so important to this podcast is because we constantly get demonetized on YouTube because we talk about drugs. Even though it's educational content, they constantly demonetize me. So, Quick Intel, you are so appreciated. Quick Intel is not only a token, but a cutting-edge platform built on the Arbitrum blockchain with a mission to make crypto trading safer. Are you tired of falling victim to scams and feeling uncertain about which projects to trust in the vast crypto landscape? Quick Intel understands the challenges that you face as a crypto trader. That's why Quick Intel has developed a comprehensive hub of advanced AI tools designed to empower you to do your own research effectively. With their proactive approach, Quick Intel helps you to detect scams before they happen, equipping you to make well-informed investment decisions and fostering greater trust in the projects you're interested in. Don't let scammers take advantage of you. Visit quickintel.io to discover how Quick Intel's suite of AI tools can provide you with the information and insights you need to effectively do your own research. Again, thank you, Quick Intel. And it was so funny the other day. We literally had to utilize Quick Intel to read a contract and it said critical warning. So I was like, wow, this is so cool. And as I've stated before, it's so easy to use. If y'all go on Dex Tools, if you look at crypto regularly on Dex Tools, there is a link right there to Quick Intel. Show them some love. We appreciate them very much. So with all that being said, guess who's back? Flakka. No, I mean, well, kind of. So I wanted to bring this topic up actually last week's episode, because I know we spoke a lot about different new drugs and stuff like that that were coming into the market, but I did not do that. So I wanted to talk about it this episode, and not only because flakka is like a crazy drug where people were like eating other individuals' faces off, but it's not always so easy to identify. And a lot of these designer drugs end up in the drug supply for like recreational drug users. Like I talk about it all the time. There's tons of people who use drugs recreationally. It's not a bad thing. They go to music festivals. They want to have fun. And so they indulge. But the issue is that nowadays you truly don't know what you're taking. There cannot be a more dangerous time to be a drug user in any form. So a little bit of info on this. So, and kind of how this came to my attention was, you guys know that I work on the street with individuals who are struggling with substance use disorders, and I love them. Those are my friends, right? But lately I've been seeing a lot more aggressive nature on the street, and that's like not typical, really. I know a lot of people, when they think of homeless individuals, they think crazy and dangerous and violent. And I always say the reality is I feel that they're more scared of you than you are of them. These people are victimized constantly in the middle of the night. They don't take their mental health medications because they have a fear of sleeping because of what can happen to them while they're sleeping, and a lot of different issues like that. And obviously, a lot of the individuals on the street do use substances. In my opinion, they don't often, a lot of them don't have like severe substance use issues. And what do I mean by that? I mean, like, I've seen individuals with severe substance use issues, and like the people that are experiencing homelessness that might have those severe issues, they're usually not in, you don't see them a lot. They're off doing their own thing. They don't come to the soup kitchen for food. They don't come to the shower truck to shower. They don't engage with homeless outreach because they're out doing their own thing. They panhandle, they make their money, they buy their drugs, they figure out a way to shower. They're just so good at surviving on their own. But the other individuals, the ones that we do see regularly, the ones that do come in for showers and all of that, yes, they smoke weed, they might drink a few beers, they might use a small amount of drugs because they don't have a ton of money, right? So how can you be like using $10,000 worth of drugs in a month if you don't have any money? Anyway, my point to all of this was I don't feel like many of these people use more drugs than individuals who are living inside of a house. But lately, I have seen their behaviors on these drugs change, which caused me to look into what was going on. And when I spoke with them, a lot of them said, "Oh, it's flakka," and they put it in joints and they call it a fleet. I don't know what came up with that term, but whatever. So they call it a fleet, and then they're like, "Oh, it's Molly." But it's none of those things. It's all bath salts. And so a lot of it comes from the cathinone derivative. So that is from the khat plant, Khat. I don't know where it's found. Again, right? I'm not a scientist, as I said last week. But there's basically just a bunch of different derivatives of bath salts. We've been seeing this forever. Same thing's happening with opiates. Same thing's happening with every other drug out there. People are trying to get away with being able to create it in a lab legally or whatever. They're trying to skirt the law. So they're always going to be coming out with different types of derivatives of these substances. And bath salts is a street name for a combination of synthetic cathinones, which are man-made versions of stimulants, again, found in the khat plant. Florida, of course, is responsible for over half of the overdoses involving Utilone, which came on the scene heavily about 1 to 2 years ago. And last month, this caught my attention because I actually read a news story about a newlywed couple who were found deceased in their bed with their puppy, Ruby, which is, maybe it's because they had a puppy. I was like, oh my God, the puppy's like in the bed with them and they like died. But they overdosed from what they thought was Molly, because it's not Molly. None of this stuff is real, which is why testing drugs is so important. And having the ability to test your drugs, which is called harm reduction, is really important. And I don't think I'll ever understand why people argue the harm reduction idea. It's not here to like solve the entire world's problems, but if people are going to continue to use drugs and other substances, it's probably better that they do it in a way that is safer, right? I don't know. Maybe I'm making too much sense. So anyway, these two individuals were found dead after, trying to go out, have fun, do Molly. So what are the effects? What will someone look like if they're using this substance? They usually become very hot, very warm. People often may start taking off their clothes because you're just so hot. Teeth grinding, super common with like all uppers. Excessive swallowing, much more talkative. And then once you start getting to the more severe side of the signs, you'll come to agitated, violent, hallucinations, delusions, paranoia, and cardiovascular problems. So why I really wanted to bring this up, though, is because I know that a lot of people go to music festivals, and I know that a lot of people want to go have fun, and I just want people to be aware, and I want everyone to come home safe. I want you all to have fun, but when you're done having fun, I want you to still be around to take care of your family and to like go to work and to do all the things that you love and enjoy. So I looked at a lot of studies regarding this, and I was hoping that I could find more information about music festivals and what kind of drugs are there and the testing. But drug testing at music festivals is not super common here in the United States like it is in some other countries. So I kind of have to go off of a lot of statistics from other countries because people are so concerned with getting in trouble for offering these services in the United States that they just like don't. One study had a random selection of 247 drugs at a festival in Europe. So testers found that over 20% of the drugs submitted at the event were not what they were sold to the consumer. The results were consistent over all drug types. So 20% of any drug, whether it was MDMA, cocaine, heroin, was not what it was supposed to be. Most notably, studies found that drugs that were sold to people as cocaine were laced with ketamine or fentanyl. I say this all the time. I had a client the other day overdose smoking crack. No one should overdose smoking crack. That's not how crack works, right? Stop putting fentanyl in shit. What the fuck? Anyway, sorry. That and similar drugs sold as MDMA were actually N-ethylpentalone. I even looked it up how to say it properly because I know y'all like to come for me, which is a long-lasting substance that can cause anxiety, paranoia, insomnia, and psychosis. Among these results, drugs were found to have cutting agents like low-grade pharmaceuticals. This was an interesting one. Anti-malaria medication. So at least you're killing two birds with one stone there. And brown sugar, which doesn't seem too bad unless you're diabetic. So Know Your Stuff NZ, which is a organization out of New Zealand, what they do is they go to all of the like music festivals and people can go test their drugs and see what's in them, see if it's safe. And if they want to take them, they can. And if they don't, they can get them destroyed at the tent. They found that at their concerts, 69% of the substances tested were with what the clients thought they were. So only 70% of the drugs that were tested were what people thought they were. So 70% of cocaine was cocaine. The rest of the 30% was other chemicals and drugs. And they said that is the lowest it's been since 2016. So in the past, it has been more reliable to buy drugs and have them be what people said they were. I think it was like a 95% in 2016. So obviously every single year the number is getting lower or higher, however you want to look at it. More fake drugs, basically. 25% of the samples gave results were not consistent with what people thought they have. So 25% were not consistent with what people thought they had bought. Another 4% were partially consistent, but also had other additives in it that people weren't aware of. And again, this comes back to my point that why harm reduction should be allowed and why it is so important. Another study from 2016 in London showed that when this service was offered at large musical festivals, hospitalizations dropped by 95%. So when people have the access to test their drugs, they do, and they have the ability to make educated choices, they do. A lot of these people in these reports that they made, when they found out that the drugs weren't what they thought they were, they got rid of them. They decided not even to do them at all and to be safe. And they even had lists of drugs like, okay, people are willing to do it if they're these drugs, but they're not willing to do it if they're these drugs. And it's mostly research chemical. People are scared of research chemicals as they should be. You have no clue what it's going to do, in my opinion. You have to be really careful. Moreover, on that point, finally, July 5th, so this month, 2023, fentanyl test strips became legal in the state of Florida. So this is something we've been fighting with the state in regards to. I have been part of some of the groups that have come together to try to push this legislation to get these things to be available. Prior to this month, if you had any kind of fentanyl test strip on you, that was considered paraphernalia. It gave cops reasonable suspicion to search your vehicle or your person because they figure if you have a fentanyl test strip on you, you probably also have fentanyl on you. So finally, just this month, it was passed after not being passed last year. They finally passed it to allow fentanyl test strips. And these are illegal in still half the states in the United States. You cannot use fentanyl test strips. They are a misdemeanor, I believe. Or, I'm sure every state's different, but that's what they were here. So I thought that was interesting. I think that that's important. I think that they should have test strips for everything. I think we're way behind on the xylazine test strips. I think those need to be offered and come next. And some of the people that were like creating this bill last year when they didn't want to pass it, their big thing was, well, if we like give them fentanyl test strips, like more people are going to do fentanyl. Like, bro, that's not how that works. Okay. Like that is like not how that works. And this is an issue that I have with individuals that don't have lived experience making these legislative decisions for everybody. It's like, bro, you don't know what you're talking about. You have no lived experience. You're not drawing off of any like true education or knowledge, in my opinion. How can you make that decision for everybody? So I hope that more states continue to look at this and to allow these things, these tools to be utilized so that we can start reducing the harm that people are experiencing while they are using. And, you know, whenever I talk about this, like, obviously I could be wrong. You know, if you guys disagree, comment down below. My ideas and the way I feel about things are always evolving and changing as I get new information. But I also, you know, on my way here, I was listening to different YouTube channels where people were against maybe harm reduction or against sex work and things like that, just because I want to know their opinion. And I guess, you know, this one lady said, well, you know, there's abstinence-based recovery and then there's harm reduction. But the only issue with harm reduction is that you don't receive the promises of recovery, which means you can't live like a happy, free, like fulfilling life. And I just thought, like, what are you talking about? Why not? I don't understand. Like, what? Because if someone's on Suboxone, they can't live like a happy, fulfilled life. Like, I'm very confused. So I didn't agree, but still I listened. And, you know, I do think it is interesting how people have these different ideas on harm reduction. I can say for me personally, I am wary about certain harm reduction ideas, and maybe it's just because I don't know enough about them. Things like safe injection sites kind of like freak me out. I don't know if I like love the idea, but I don't know. Let me know what you guys think below. I don't know if I'd want one by my house. But I mean, I guess it's free because if it's free, less people are going to steal and have to do scary things in order to get their drugs, and they can use it in a safe place. But I know that they made what did they call it? It was, basically they had an open air drug market. I believe it was in San Francisco, and the government, this is what kills me. The government of San Francisco gave these fools $22 million to run an open air drug market, hoping that the result would be more people going to rehab. And they had thousands of people coming in and out of this open air drug market, and only like 4 or 5 of them went to treatment in months and months and months. I mean, Christ, that's lower than my success rate at work. That's really bad. $22 million. Again, give it to me. I'll help you guys out. Don't worry about it. So that's my little rant about that. Check your drugs, know what you're using, be careful, and be aware of what's out there. Moving on. The Long Island serial killer. Y'all, this fucking creep fuck, okay? I can't. So, and the other day I was like, why are there no good serial killers from Florida? Like, Ted Bundy was here like briefly, but I don't really know if he was like a Florida man, you know? But we don't have a ton of good ones, but we have the lady. I'll get to her in a moment. But anyway, the Long Island serial killer, if you guys don't know about him, he's also known as the Craigslist Ripper or the Gilgo Beach Murderer, and his name is Ron Huerman. And this guy, I believe he's like 59 years old. He lives in Long Island in like a nice suburban house in Long Island. Well, I have to say his community is really nice. His house is like a shithole, which I don't live in a mansion, but this dude was an architect. Architect your house, dude. What's going on here? Okay. Look it up online. So he lived in this like eyesore of a house in the middle of this really nice suburban community in Long Island. And he commuted every day to work on Fifth Avenue, where he had an architectural company. And so he's had that architect firm there since the 80s. And that's like a really bougie place to have an office, Fifth Avenue, Manhattan. And so he was very successful at that. He was married. He has 2 children. I believe the son is like his wife's from a previous marriage. He's been with his wife for, I think, about 25 years. And this whole time he's been murking sex workers. Like, what the fuck? That's crazy. And everyone's saying, like, you can't say the family knew, but like, and sure, maybe they didn't know, but how don't you know you're living with a psychopath, right? Like, I just find it so hard to believe. I mean, okay, granted, there probably were no signs maybe that he was like a serial killer, but he couldn't have been like a good person to them, right? Like he could not have been, like he loved to torture women. That was the thing that he loved. He had like photos that were taken out of his house of like a big face of a girl that where she was just beat up, like blackened eyes, like gashes on her face, like not cute, like looked like she had this shit beaten out of her. Like that's what this guy liked. He liked like all that sadistic stuff. And so how did they never notice? Like he likes to see people feel pain. And how you know this even more is because after he like killed these victims, he would call their families and taunt them. What? You piece of shit. Who does that? So basically, here's May 2010, 23-year-old Shannon Gilbert disappeared from a gated community on Long Island, sparking a search that led to the discovery of 10 other bodies along a desolate beach highway. So they're saying there could be 10, there could be 15. He's only been charged with 3, and he's the lead suspect on a 4th woman. Altogether, there was 9 women, 1 man, and 1 girl toddler body that was found. And many people say that there might be more than one killer, which is kind of interesting because this little town where he dumped the bodies, where the beach is, it's like a town where like they don't allow police in there. I don't know. It's a little weird. You guys can look more into that part. But the reason why I don't know, felt so compelled to even talk about it is because I was watching this one young lady who shared her story about meeting him. And I just liked her because she was like vaping. She was like on this big news channel and she was like hitting her vape. And I was like, my girl. So basically she had a history of substance use. And during that time, she's in recovery now. She's a mom of 4. She's a hairstylist. But 10 years ago, she was struggling with opiates that she had got prescribed by a doctor. And so then her doctor got arrested, and then she ended up on the street using heroin and using sex work as a way to make money. She met this guy. She felt uncomfortable, so she met him for dinner first. And she said the whole time, all he spoke about was the murderer. That was like, he was like, do you like true crime? And he was like obsessed with these murders. And that's all he wanted to talk to her about. And she said it was very creepy. And basically she got out of there. She refused to get in the car with him. She was super smart, keeping herself safe in that situation. And I'm sure every day she's like so grateful that that wasn't her. But like everyone, all these young women that he killed were like little petite young ladies. And then it made me think of this podcast that I was listening to the other day. It was a few years old, Theo Von podcast, but he had a sex worker on there, and she was talking about the FOSTA and the SESTA Act that passed in 2018. So what that is Fight Online Sex Trafficking Act and the Stop Enabling Sex Traffickers Act. And so what that did was take down a lot of those websites that women used to use to advertise themselves, or sex traffickers used to use to advertise individuals they were trafficking. The issue, and what this young lady was saying was that, well, I guess there's pros and cons. So let me explain some of the pros and cons. Targeting traffickers. So these acts aim to crack down on websites that facilitate sex trafficking, particularly those used by traffickers to exploit victims, by holding website owners accountable for such content. So that was Backpage, that was Craigslist, a lot of those, right? Protecting victims. They wanted this legislation to provide legal recourse for victims of sex trafficking who are exploited through online platforms, and giving them the ability to pursue civil action against websites who knowingly facilitated their exploitation. It raised awareness, and they were hoped to, mobilize the community. Cons: safety risks for sex workers. So critics argue by shutting down or limiting online platforms where sex workers can connect with clients, these acts have forced some sex workers back onto the street. This increases the risk of violence and exploitation faced by sex workers who are now operating in a more dangerous environment. So before, these women had these online forums where they could talk to each other, where they would talk about clients, where they had blacklists. So if they knew if like a certain individual is violent or weird or whatever it is, they had like all these lists of people so they could try to be safer when going on these dates. Online also offered them a little bit of a buffer before they met them. Maybe they could email and kind of see how that individual acted with them before they like decided to go to a hotel and meet this person for the first time. So another con was it limits harm reduction. So online platforms offered sex workers, like I was just saying, tools to vet potential clients, such as shared blacklists to identify dangerous individuals. And by reducing these online platforms, it has diminished the ability of sex workers to implement harm reduction strategies, potentially increasing their vulnerability. And why do I bring these two things up? Well, 43% of serial killer victims are sex workers. Wow, that's like a lot, right? You would think. And the one lady, so I was like, man, there's no good like female serial killers. You never hear about too many female serial killers. And then I came upon Eileen, who is from Florida, Port St. Lucie, just one county above me. And she was murking these men. And I'm like, how can they give her the death penalty for that? I'm just so confused. Yes, it's bad. You shouldn't kill men or women or anybody. Sure. But it seems like she was just, I don't hate her for it, right? Like, anyway. So they have decided, a lot of studies, some studies have gone into these acts that they pass, and it shows that it has been ineffective against sex traffickers. If anything, these different acts have pushed sex work and things of that nature even deeper underground, and has created a more violent situation for a lot of the women that are out there. And that's why I don't promote sex work. It's not something that I have any lived experience with. I will have somebody on soon that does. But if that's what an individual chooses to do, I do wish that they could do it in a way that's safe for them, where they're not going to get hurt or be put in a situation where they're not alive anymore. I saw this young lady when I was doing outreach about a week ago, and her face was all bruised up. And I know that she's a sex worker, and obviously I'm not going to get into it. If y'all know anything about trauma-informed care, you're just going to be like, did you get beat up by a John the other day? Right? But it made me so sad to think that like these women are out here with very little protection, and anything can really happen. And people think because they're using substances that they don't matter, right? Everyone's worth saving. Like, that's not true at all. And so if we're going to have individuals who, no matter what, since the beginning of time, sex work has been a thing, I don't think it's going anywhere. Maybe we should implement some of these harm reduction strategies for them as well, right? Testing. We hand out condoms and stuff like that at my job, but just stuff like that, I think they should have more access to it. And so there is a organization called Hacking/Hustling, and they conducted a survey of sex workers because, again, these acts were created without any sex workers in the room. Right? We need to stop doing this with everything. Nothing about us without us. Nothing about us without us. If you're a sex worker, you should be in the room when they're making sex worker legislation. If you're a drug addict or recovering drug addict, you should be in the room when they're coming up with different legislation about drugs, the war on drugs, and all that other crap. Like, we should have a say in that stuff because we are the ones with the lived experience, and we are the ones with the knowledge to be able to make a difference. So anyway, they conducted a study of sex workers to see if these acts actually made a difference, if it was positive, if it was negative, because there's been no research done to see if this is even working. Okay. And what they found is 50% of their sample group of sex workers had barriers to other forms of labor, with the most common barrier being mental health diagnosis, chronic illness, and disability. Which was interesting. As I was reading more, they were talking about how many people believe that mental health diagnosis, substance use, disabilities are a result of sex work. But it may be the opposite way around. Because of limited studies, we really don't know. We really don't have a lot of education on it. More than 70% of sex workers surveyed that the new acts have negatively affected their financial situation. 45% of them could not afford to place ads in the new places that are legal to place those ads. And the change in online platforms has resulted in sex workers returning to street prostitution, working with agencies or pimps, or taking on other jobs to make up for lost income. And they also found that 26% of respondents said they had an exacerbation of their mental health symptoms since the enactment of FOSTA and SESTA. The government claims that the FOSTA-SESTA has decreased sex trafficking ads by 90%, but they didn't say it's decreased sex trafficking at all because they don't know. So anyway, I just wanted to throw a little bit of that information out there for you guys, just to give you, as you always, something to think about, something to gnaw on, something to look up on your own. Because if we're going to try to protect everybody that's outside, that's going through a tough time, I guess we can all make those choices, right? I can choose to be a sex worker if I want to. Everyone says it's my body, my choice. Is it not? That's what everybody's been saying. So if that is the way we've been thinking, then I guess it is each individual's choice of what they want to do with their body. And some people don't agree with it, and some people super agree with it. I guess I'm kind of in the middle. I'm sure there's like a lot of trauma and things of that nature that come with doing that work for too long. I know young ladies that don't want to be doing that work at all, but do it to survive, basically. And I know high-end escorts that like make a ton of money that aren't on drugs, that are beautiful, like drop-dead gorgeous women. And that's like what they do. And so I support them also. But yeah, I never actually posted this, but my first podcast episode I did with my friend Debbie, and I never posted it. I think I might one day. I just need a little bit of editing, a little bit of refining. It was my first one, but we actually talked about this a lot. And even like how it said some of these women felt like they couldn't do other jobs because of their mental health or their disability. At least it would give some sort of harm reduction initiative would give us the opportunity to meet these young women and men and find out what they do want to do and try to help them on a path to get there if they do want to exit sex work, right? Like all these things we could be doing to lift up this community that we're not currently doing because it's so stigmatized. That's my point, is that we got to stop stigmatizing it, stop looking at these people like, oh, they can be murdered by serial killers, like nobody cares. That thing like kind of really needs to go. Right? Just like, oh, kill all the junkies, like how that's kind of going. Like, I think this is like the next thing that we need to look at, how we look at as in a society, because until Christianity came along, everyone was hooking. Okay. It's real. Look it up. Talking about that, guys, I'm going to go on to my next topic here, but, okay. I was watching Ancient Aliens, right? Why is it that the Great Pyramid. Okay, first of all, why are the oldest pyramids the best? Weird, right? Don't you think we would have, I know I'm like jumping to like a totally different subject right now, but don't you think it's something that we would have had to practice as a human society, like how to build these like massive pyramids with these chambers inside and geometry and probably algebra and whatever goes into building a pyramid? Don't you think like our first pyramid we built would have sucked? That it wouldn't have been the best, biggest one ever built, the Pyramid of Giza? And so I was watching the Ancient Aliens show, but they made a good point. So basically they said the longitude and latitude of the Great Pyramid of Giza, like the tippy top of it, is the number matches the speed of light. What? That's crazy. You're telling me okay, maybe that's just the way it is. But I think it's a really interesting hypothesis that maybe God made everything, right? Even though it said God made the earth, does it say God made the universe? I'm not sure. I haven't really read the Bible like that. But let's just say the universe was created by something. And then we were like hunter-gathering, trying to make it happen here. Ice ages come in, right? Then the ice age is leaving and we're steady, like going all around the world. And by the way, back in the day, like before Homo sapiens, we had like really long legs and really long arms. It was really easy for us to walk and get around places. So But we were just like hunter-gatherers. We weren't brilliant. We were like figuring out how to use rocks as a tool. Like that wasn't that long ago. So from the time we start using rocks as tools and stuff like that to the time we start building massive megalith structures, kind of weird. And like every single religion talks about the same thing. They talk about like these all-knowing, knowledge-having things coming down from the sky and offering education on astrology and math and reading and all of these super important things to society today. And yeah, I don't know. I just think it's so interesting how that happened. Like, how did we go from just being simple hunter-gatherers? Well, women were the first people to farm. You're welcome. They say, I mean, who the fuck knows? But that's what they say. How did we go from that to like being able to create armies of people to build like mega structures and to feed all those people and to house all those people? I mean, it's just pretty impressive, huh? And so that the Egyptians are around like 2,000 to 4,000 years ago. But really, they see that ancient civilization started about 10, 12,000 years ago, which really changes the whole timeline of everything. I don't know. It's just something I think about a lot because I think about how did we get here, right? To a place where we've never been before. Things are changing. And that's why I can't always expect individuals like, society as a whole or the government to make perfect decisions because we've never been here before. This is the first time we've ever had 7-8 billion people on the planet. This is the first time that we've had this kind of technology. This is the first time ever for all of this stuff. So obviously we're all navigating it. But, I thought it was really interesting to think about that. And then I got into our food. And this will probably be one of my last topics, but I got into this food thing. So the other day I was on TikTok and the girl Miranda that I had on a few weeks ago, she posted this video of like the food that she bought at the grocery store that day. And I'm not going to lie, it looked super strange. Like her cucumbers didn't actually have like any seeds and they had this like weird ripples in them. And I don't know, her food just looked weird. So I started doing a little TikToking. And hey, it's TikTok, but so I start TikToking around and then I saw this guy who bought whiting fish. So it's a white fish and it was supposed to be like from, I don't know, Ecuador or something like that. And he had it in a bowl of water. And he took the fish and he like squeezed it out like as hard as he could till it was like all the water was out of it, right? And it was just like crumpled fish. And then he put it back in the water and it like looked the exact same way as before he crumpled it up. Right? Fish don't fucking do that, bro. What the fuck is that? That ain't even real food, okay? It's not real food. And then they were showing this chicken and they were showing like this glue that they use to like glue chicken bits together. I don't even eat chicken anymore because I think it's like kind of gross. And it's so, you gotta buy the good stuff. Even ground meat. I go to Publix and I asked the lady there, I said, is your ground meat good? Because I hear they be putting that pink slime in there and like causes cancer. Like, are you sure there's like no pink slime in the meat? Because they don't sell U.S. beef in other countries. There are so many foods that we eat here that they do not sell in other countries. Gatorade, Little Dubbies, Ritz crackers, our produce, our chicken, they won't sell to other countries because of the hormones that we use and all of that stuff. And I just like now every time I'm at the grocery store, I really do my best to just do the outer. You're supposed to like do a lap around the outside the grocery store. That's how they say is the most effective way to eat. That's healthiest. Like not go down any of those middle aisles with all that crap garbage that they're using to murder you. Because remember, we can't trust these people. They're the same people that gave us Oxycontin. They're the same people that almost gave us 160 milligram Oxycontin. Like did the FDA sign off on that? Like I'll never know. But these are the people that we're working with here. So I just feel like we can't trust them to make sure our food is safe. And so we need to educate ourselves to make sure that we know what we're eating. Have you guys seen that they're coming out with chicken that like they grow? They like take enzymes and they like feed this like chicken cells, like these enzymes and proteins and shit so that the chicken cells grow in a chicken. Like, that's disgusting. I don't want anything to do with it. So unfortunately, guys, this will be my last podcast because I'm going to have to buy a house in the middle of the woods and raise my own chickens to eat food that's not going to kill me. I know I'm being a little dramatic today, but it's like how I feel. I was like, wow, I just feel like everything's falling apart. On a happy note, today is International Self-Care Day. And so even though you all will be listening to this on Wednesday, I hope that you do take some time today to take care of yourself. Yesterday, I had like this weird anxiety that came out of nowhere. I don't know what it's about. And I realized that's what they call generalized anxiety, when you just feel anxious for like no reason, right? And so I figured for Self-Care Day, I would tell you guys what I do when I'm feeling that way, and maybe that'll help somebody on here. So for some reason, I have like a deep, deep, deep pull towards nature when I feel like that. Like I have to be outside. I love the wind for whatever reason. It just makes me feel so much better. So being out in nature is like a big one. Doing some sort of like painting that is slow and that doesn't need to be perfect and that I can change and do whatever I want. That's really big for me too. Yoga, which really, if I'm really having anxiety, I just want to do like the slowest yoga possible. And I try not to go on the internet because I don't know why it doesn't really make me feel better. Yesterday I was like, I was having like anxiety. So I kept pulling out TikTok and Instagram, like thinking like, oh, maybe like I'll distract myself and it'll make me feel better. Like, no, it's important for me to sit with it and try to figure out where it's coming from. And if I can't figure out where it's coming from, just to remind myself that like I'm safe, I am loved. I have so many things that I probably don't even deserve, and to just try to get back to having some gratitude. But sometimes I don't know sometimes people just feeling anxious, or sometimes people are just depressed, and I don't know if us telling them, well, just don't act that way anymore, don't feel that way anymore. I don't know if that works. But it helps to talk to somebody. It helps to tell somebody else how you're feeling. And it helps me to do that, and helps me to get out to nature and to listen to music and to paint. So I hope that you all comment down below what you guys do when you're not feeling good, when you're having a bad day, and maybe your tips will help somebody else in the comments. So I love you guys so much. I'm excited for the episode that I'm filming tomorrow. She's going to be such a cool guest. So I'm excited for that. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and I love you so much. Bye.